For your listening pleasure, here's Polizzi and Rose, covering the week of media, marketing, and digital content news. This Old Marketing. Take it away, boys.
Well, hello, my friends. This is Robert Rose, and welcome to episode number 332 of This Old Marketing for Thursday, July 14th, 2022. And with me, as always, my good friend, my colleague, and a guy who was nominated for exactly the same number of Emmy Awards as Yellowstone, Mr. Joe Polizzi. How are you?
I didn't realize this. Did they get shut out?
They are snubbed.
Oh.
They were snubbed. It is quite the controversy, as the British folk might say. Yes.
Is that because they're blackballing Kevin Costner? Is that
it? I don't know what it is. To be honest, it's very strange to me that it got 0 Emmy nominations. It's a great show.
I have not watched it. I've heard people rave about it, but I know that there's Yellowstone in the series with Costner, and I know there's the prequel with Sam Elliott, right? That just came out.
Yes, which was not that good, I have to say.
Oh, okay.
I have to say that the prequel was. It felt a little forced, and it's, I think we talked about this even on the show. The prequel felt a little forced. Sam Elliott is always, he's Sam Elliott, right? He's just great. But Tim McGraw and Faith Hill, it was really hard to suspend my disbelief, right? It was really hard to get beyond the fact that I'm watching Tim McGraw and Faith Hill. They just, and it's not their performance necessarily. It's just that they just didn't become characters. They sort of, it was like, oh, there's Tim McGraw and Faith Hill. It's like every time I would see them, the writing was good, but not nearly as good as it is on Yellowstone, even though it's the same people pretty much. But Yellowstone was, all seasons of it.
What is there? How many? 4 seasons? Something like that, right?
I believe there's 3 or 4. 4, I believe. Yes.
Is it really worthwhile? See, that I don't like to invest myself into series because of the time. There's a lot of really good, as we've talked about, the golden age of television is right now. There's amazing series that are going, but
That's
I don't want to. So I've already invested myself in Stranger Things, which is done.
Okay.
And I'll do.
Are you done?
I'm done.
Are you done with it?
Yes, absolutely. Outside of the fact that season 4, I thought should have been edited a little bit more. I didn't think it had to be 72 hours
I haven't quite finished
worth.
it yet.
But but great show, and we'll talk a little bit about it later in the show, I believe. Netflix.
Okay.
But that one I do the Marvel series. I did Obi-Wan. I like the Mandalorian.
Obi-Wan was great. Mandalorian was great. I have not watched Ms. Marvel.
I have not watched Ms. Marvel. No, for some reason, I haven't gotten into it. I did go see with the fam the new Thor movie.
Oh, how was that?
Well, okay. The first 2 where it was not a comedy, right? It was Thor. It was the story of Thor, and he was very much.
Well, Ragnarok was a comedy.
But all I'm saying is it's going that direction.
That's the third
so
one.
Thor, I thought the first one was very serious. It wasn't. He never played a buffoon.
Yes. Well,
now he sort of plays.
It's classic. Yeah.
He sort of plays a buffoon. It's Idiocracy. It's like Marvel's version of Idiocracy. Is that series? It's nuts. You're just shaking your head. You're like, what? How did that happen? What's the timeline? Like, who's doing like? And then I'm not going to give anything away, but Russell Crowe plays Zeus. And first of all, Russell Crowe is like 300 pounds in this movie. So I don't know if they asked him to gain the weight for the part. And then he speaks with, I guess it's supposed to be a Greek accent, but it sounds Italian to me. So you got a 300-pound Russell Crowe with an Italian Greek accent. And it's hard. It's hard to watch.
He sounds a little bit like Mario from Donkey Kong or something.
Yes, exactly. It's like Mario and Luigi.
Yeah, that's sad.
But
oh dear.
If you want it, it's a decent popcorn movie. But it's
Ragnarok was fun. I enjoyed Ragnarok very much, even though it was very lighthearted.
Well, you have to go into this. This does not further the Marvel universe, in my opinion, in any way. It just is a lot of laughs, and yeah, it is. Just keep the expectations low when you. It was no Top Gun Maverick. You know, it's no.
Okay, well,
it's no serious docudrama like Maverick was. Very realistic.
Well, to answer your ultimate question there, yes, I would say going in. I mean, look, it's, as I've said, it's the cowboy version of The Sopranos. And so if you like that kind of tone and you enjoy sort of the Western genre, it's a great show. I mean, it's a great show. I really, really liked it. But you have to be, you know, it's violent. It's got, you know, it's very much about a crime family, really, more than anything else. And so you have to sort of be in the mood for that. If you like that kind of idea, I think you'd love the show. The
only thing that I watched episode 1 of, have you heard of The Bear on Hulu? Have you heard of this?
I have not.
It actually got a big coverage in New York Times. I was recommended, two of my close friends. I'm sorry, I have other friends besides you, Robert, but two of my close friends recommended The Bear almost simultaneously, and it's about a restaurant owner in Chicago, and I watched the first episode, 30 minutes. It's crazy. It almost made me want to watch the second one, which is saying something for a series. But anyways, that's and I like any kind of restaurant movie. I mean, as you know, my parents used to own a restaurant. I love the inner workings of that and how that goes on. Chef is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Is it like that? Is the show like that?
It's so fast moving, and the language is incredibly foul. So I mean, if you have kids around, you can't do it. But it's
right.
It from what I could gather, and I'm not giving anything away, but the main character used to be this renowned chef, and his brother passed away, and his brother owned this sandwich shop in Chicago, and you don't know all the details yet, but for some reason he had to come back, and now he's trying to resurrect this sandwich shop in Chicago, and he's got no money, and he's trading everything he owns just to get meat to sell for the day. And it just goes through him trying to figure this thing out, and the staff is rebelling against him because they're like, this is not the way your brother did it. And he's like, well, his brother didn't leave the restaurant to you, left it to me, so get out of my way. And
all right.
Yeah.
I've written it down. I will give it a shot.
Do you have Hulu?
I do, yeah. We have in our household, we have hashtag all the streaming services. It's like it's you know.
Yeah, because you have Paramount, you have Hulu, you have
got it all. Yeah,
you got all
HBO Max. We got Disney. We got Apple. It's a thing. Yeah, for sure.
How long do you think that's gonna last? Not just with you. I'm just with people. Are we gonna have some consolidation here?
Oh, for sure.
Right? It's got to happen.
Yes, we're going to. Yeah, absolutely. There will be some consolidation.
Like I would imagine that I could see Paramount Plus. I mean, they've got the advantage of taking their movies and going direct, similar to what Disney has. But I could see HBO
and they've got
Max.
hit shows like Star Trek. They've got franchises,
yes,
right?
They have good. They have good. I mean, the same thing. The franchises make it. I mean, I never really. When I was reading this article that we'll cover today for Netflix, I forgot all the amazing franchises that Netflix has had. That they, between Ozark and Umbrella Academy and Stranger Things, and I guess Squid Games, if they do another one, which I'm assuming they will.
Oh yeah, they are. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Squid Games, by the way, cleaned up at the Emmys. So,
You're the only. I didn't even know this was news. I'm so happy you still cover like the main awards. Because nobody else does.
Well, I live in Hollywood, so what are you going to do? I mean, I pay attention.
Is it still a big deal in Hollywood? Like,
well, yeah. I mean, it's still a big deal in the world of TV and film and streaming. Yeah, absolutely. It's a big deal. I don't know. These days, because so many of the nominees, and we've covered this ad nauseum. It seems like once a year we cover this. How the major television networks and traditional studios have been eclipsed by the tech companies. The Netflixes, the Amazons, Apple, etc. How many of those are, Jeff Bezos is now winning, Oscars, and, Apple TV and Amazon and Netflix are winning Emmy Awards. It's like, it's a little
Remember
weird.
when we used to talk about that? We called that. This is like in 17 and 18.
Oh,
when we
God,
were,
yes, absolutely.
I don't remember
Yeah.
what it was around, but I think we were making predictions, and we said in 5 years the majority of Emmy and Oscar winners will come from streaming services, and it
That's
was like
right.
a crazy prediction at the time. And now you're like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, of course,
Of course they are.
of course they are, because
absolutely.
they have all the monies.
They have hashtag right. Yes. Or they've spent all the monies. We'll see if they can continue spending all the monies. That's
And again
coming to an end.
And again, that's why we're going to need consolidation, because you can't spend whatever. I forgot. I listened to that Prof G show episode where he talked about something like there's $100 billion of content being created per year by these streaming services,
Yep.
and there's no way they can make their money back combined. It's like
$100 for every subscriber, right? It's just the math doesn't work.
just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So.
It doesn't work. Well, speaking of doesn't work, should we get to our show? Because we're going to talk about a lot of things that aren't working, apparently.
Including this show.
Including the show.
Exactly. I like this. Yes, that's a good segue.
Yeah. It's a good segue. So let's talk about what we're going to talk about. We are going to talk about Elon and Twitter, of course, because hashtag we have to. And there's some interesting developments in that story, which is even changing as we speak, I suppose. We'll also talk about Spotify. They've acquired the audio game Heardle. But are they doing okay with this whole podcast thing? We'll talk a little bit about the status of Spotify at the moment. We'll talk about Clubhouse, of course, because I get to gloat a little more. But maybe it's not as dead as we think it is.
It's only mostly dead.
Only mostly dead, says Miracle Max. And then, if time, we'll talk about Netflix and their foray, perhaps, into theme parks, which would basically provide Joe a new poster on his wall instead of the Disney thing. He could put up the Netflix thing. I'm going to rave a little bit about our friends at NASA. And then also, I'm going to rave a little bit about Netflix's choice with partnering with Microsoft for their new ad-supported tier. And Joe is going to have some commentary on a podcast channel strategy. So that'll be fun to stay tuned for. Okay.
You sound so excited about that.
It's very exciting.
People want to actually listen to that.
If you want to, if
you actually care, about marketing,
Otherwise, at the 50-minute mark, you can turn it off.
But we're not sure. It could be 50. It could be 60. It could be 40. That's what we just keep.
It could be anywhere.
We keep our listeners guessing. We really don't know how long we're going to go.
And that's the truth, folks. We really have no idea.
It's kind of up to you
what we're doing.
It's whenever you feel like going into rants and raves, because you could literally just keep going. And what am I going to say? Hey, are we going to end the show at some point? I'm hungry. I'd like to have lunch. No, you just do your thing.
It's true.
Yeah,
it's true. It's true. Really, the show sort of bends around my every whim. So that's
true. I'm just here to give you a break, and so you can take, sips.
You could just put a period after that. I'm just here. You can just stop there. I'm just here.
I'm just here. It's just so you can have your tequila or whatever you're drinking on the side. So it doesn't.
That sounds good right now.
Morning tequila. A morning. I would imagine an anejo
it could be one of those days.
Your morning choice, not a reposado.
It could be a nice Blanco with orange juice. It could get the day going well.
Ooh.
You never know.
You're not a Blanco fan,
All right.
but I could see that in the morning. But whatever.
Yeah, it's light. It's a light way. It's a light way to start your drunk.
Good for 8:00 in the morning. Yes.
Good for day drinking.
Yes.
All right, let's move on to our first story here, and it is, of course, our friend Elon Musk. And I think it is safe to say he's our friend now.
Oh yes.
Twitter has now decided he's going to sue Elon Musk. I don't know why I just referred to Twitter as he, but they have decided to sue Elon Musk. Says he can't, quote, trash the company and walk away, says Ars Technica, which is the story that we'll link to in the show notes, of course. And it opens up by saying Twitter filed its expected lawsuit against Elon Musk on Tuesday, demanding that he complete the $44 billion purchase of the social network. As the quote says, Musk refuses to honor his obligations to Twitter and its stockholders because the deal he signed no longer serves his personal interest, the lawsuit said. Having mounted a public spectacle to put Twitter in play and having proposed and then signed a seller-friendly merger agreement, Musk apparently believes that he, unlike every other party subject to Delaware contract law, is free to change his mind, trash the company, disrupt its operations, destroy stockholder value, and walk away. So I guess that's a no. I guess that's
what are you trying to tell me?
Yeah.
Can you be a little bit more specific?
Yeah. Exactly. So the article goes on to talk about a little more details of the lawsuit and much more hyperbole from both sides. Where are we in this sort of soap opera that we started earlier this year, and how do you think all this ends?
Well, first of all, we pretty much knew this was coming, right? From the beginning. I thought that I can't remember which episode it was, but I didn't think it was going to go through ever. Somebody's going to catch me on that, because maybe at some point I say, oh, maybe it will go through. But I supremely hope that Musk has to repay, from what I'm gathering, should be about $17-18 billion between the difference what he offered, which was $44 billion for the company, and what it's worth now, which I think, if I'm looking at this correctly, is $27 billion, something like that.
Yeah.
So he needs to pay the difference, and I know that Elon likes to live by his own rules, but this is ridiculous, because
that would be a hell of a new business model, right?
how do you
for Twitter? That's more revenue than they've made in a long time.
This is what we have law and courts for. They cannot allow somebody to come in, sign an agreement. Twitter, from our knowledge, from everything that we've read and seen, has lived up to their side of the agreement. They've gotten the data. We know whenever the data's talked back and forth about bots and what's real and what's not, and we've talked about that on this show. But this is ridiculous, the way that I think that he's disparaged this company. Regardless of Twitter, we know Twitter can't get their business model quite right yet, but it is a very valuable company. And I want to see them pay the full, whatever, $54.20 per share. He should be paying. If he's not going to pay, he needs to pay the difference to the shareholders. And that lawsuit needs to then go directly back to the shareholders who own that stock at that time, in my opinion.
That's right.
Ridiculous. What do you think?
Yeah. So I think the truth is a little bit on both sides of this equation, because what I believe is that they're playing with a little bit of house money right now, and so they know they're going to get that $1 billion, so they can they can go through discovery. And I think the reason they want to go through discovery is the optics of it, because what that will show, I think, is that there were other people interested in purchasing Twitter, and that basically he really damaged their ability to perhaps transact, which makes the company look a little more attractive, which could then tee them up to, so even if they just go through discovery and then settle, I think they're better off. So I think they go a little bit into this, but then ultimately settle.
You're probably right about the settlement. I hope it's more than $1 billion.
I do too.
I'd like to see it at least 3 to 5, but I would, if I'm Twitter, I'm taking this all the way. I know that there's I've been reading some of these articles here that says, Twitter doesn't want to go through lengthened court decision or discovery. I'm calling it. I think they want to go every bit of the way. And I think their employees will support that because of the frustration that we've heard and people not liking what Elon did. And right from the start, he was disparaging Twitter, even though he signed an agreement that said he wouldn't. So he's
That's exactly right.
Literally taking down the price of the stock. And I know we were in a downtrend from a stock market perspective to start, but he didn't do it any favors. And I think that the clearest difference is you can actually see the difference between the $44 billion that was offered, that they accepted, that they signed. It was a legal agreement. Both sides agreed to the terms. And now you're looking at, instead of $44 billion, you're looking at $28 billion. So $16 billion. That's what I want paid.
It's amazing. It would be incredible if that was the judgment. I think they'll have a hard time getting to that number because they won't be able to prove that they're even worth that, I think.
Well, they're worth right now $28 billion. Right. All I'm doing, it's just simple. It's simple math. Somebody agreed to pay 44.
Yeah.
And now it's worth 28. And you could say a lot of the difference in the lowering of the price is because of what Elon did, and they will try to prove that in court. And so that's how much you could say Elon hurt the company.
Right. But that's the hard part, right? The hard part is the proving that part, that his actions took it down to 28. You might argue that it took it from 44 to 39 or something, but or whatever. But I think that'll be the part where they won't want to protract this, because a protracted argument in court about the actual worth of Twitter means that they will have to also go through a lot of discovery as well. And that's when, the ugly side of what's actually going on within the company would come out. And I don't think the board wants to go there, because that makes them look ugly in the marketplace.
I think that there's more concern on Elon's discovery side. He's got
totally.
He has
absolutely.
lot more
Goodness
things in the
gracious.
closet that he doesn't want out than Twitter, in my opinion.
Oh, sure.
And I think Twitter knows it. So have at it.
Yes.
I want to see
100%. I agree with that. Yeah.
I want to see this go the distance.
Yeah. We're going the distance.
Ease his pain. I want to see it happen. So, and last thing I'll just say.
All right.
This thing about a very powerful billionaire, whatever, being able to do whatever they want on these platforms and disparage companies and disparage people, I'm tired of it. Well,
that'll be the interesting thing, is whether they kick him off or not. I mean, they a lot of people have said they should have already kicked him off.
I don't want them to do that, because I think that will be more of a backlash. I'll think that'd be more of the media saying, "Oh my God, there's a conspiracy, whatever," and we don't need that. He could stay on the platform. I just want him to pay, and he's got the money. So if he wants this little thing to go away, he could pay his $16 billion and go away, and then he could talk about Twitter all he wants, because the more he talks about Twitter, it actually helps Twitter from his perspective. He has his audience, so. Fine, pay the money, and then you can have your whatever 100 million followers and 60 million bots that he thinks are following him, or how many fake accounts follow him that he didn't know about ahead of time, that says was a really serious issue. Even though we talked about the fact that if you look at the numbers and like the active users and revenue per active users, that looks really good. That Twitter looks like a better business if you remove all the bots and fake accounts.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Just like any media company.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that. I mean, and I think, the prospects for Twitter look good. I think from what we've talked about on this show with the development of the new features and what they're looking at, assuming they can sort out their talent challenges, which, every day you hear about more and more people that, they just hired a new communications lead. And so, we'll see. We'll see. I think it's going to get ugly here in the next month, and then I think we'll see what happens toward the end of the summer.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's move on to our next story here, which is an interesting acquisition, and it comes courtesy of Axios, which is Spotify, which, of course, we've talked a lot about on this show before, will acquire music trivia game Heardle, which, taking advantage of certainly the name idea, basically is a game where you guess music within a few seconds, much like Wordle is to words, Heardle is to music. Spotify said Tuesday it will acquire Heardle, a daily music trivia game that tasks players with identifying that song based on its opening notes. The deal builds on Spotify's efforts to make it easier to discover interactivity with music on its platform. We see Heardle as more than a trivia game, said Spotify in a statement. It's a tool for music discovery. Heardle is inspired by the popular word-guessing game Wordle, which was acquired by the New York Times in 2022. Like Wordle, Heardle is only available once daily to players on its website, and it gives users 6 tries to guess a popular song based on its opening notes. The more guesses a user uses, the more of a song's notes are exposed. For existing Heardle players, the look and the feel of the game will not change with the acquisition, and the game will remain free to play for everybody. With the deal, players will now be able to listen to the full song on Spotify at the end of the game. And so this is an interesting acquisition. We're going to pair this with another story, and this coming from Bloomberg, and the most Bloombergy of all Bloombergy titles here. Spotify's billion-dollar bet on podcasting has yet to play off. Joe Rogan, Bill Simmons, and Call Her Daddy have not fixed the business. The article opens up by saying Dawn Ostroff rose to the top of the TV industry in the 2000s by developing deliciously addictive shows such as America's Next Top Model and Gossip Girl. It goes on to explain, her resume. Then she took the job as Spotify's chief content officer in 2018 to make a new kind of hit. They started in on podcasting as one of those things. And basically the article goes on to show about how podcasting revenue has been climbing over the last few years and climbing very quickly. But the idea of this is where it gets very Bloombergy and just ridiculous. Basically comparing Spotify's stock price, saying that podcasting hasn't started to really become a functional business, which I'm not sure how you draw those two things together. But in any event, what do you think about this sort of juxtaposition of they just acquired Heardle for music discovery and Bloomberg says they haven't figured out the podcasting business yet? What do you think?
I think this Bloomberg article is terrible. I think
Yeah,
it's a disservice.
Yeah.
I think it's a disservice to all other Bloomberg articles because they're saying that Spotify's the business model's not working because the stock price has slipped 72%. Well, you know what?
Right.
So is every other tech stock not called Apple.
Right.
Every other one is at Roku. My favorite stock, I think, is down 80%.
Yep.
So it's just, if you look at, in this article itself, they show the monthly active users that is on a wonderful uptrend.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything so beautiful. And have they quite figured out the monetization strategy for podcasts? No. But I think they figured out.
Has anybody?
No. But they figured out
Other
the
than
idea
Joe
that-
Rogan?
well, but I think it's clear that music is a loss leader for them to get podcast listeners. And the podcast listenership is still growing. They're still getting paid subscribers. They have according to the Bloomberg article, they have 420 million users and 182 million paid subscribers. That's incredible. This is a very new company still.
Yeah.
To have that many paid subscribers. So anyways, I think Spotify's doing just fine. They're going to figure it all out. I think that they're making big bets on content, similar to the way Netflix did. It worked out for Netflix. I think it's going to work out for Spotify. I think regarding the Heardle play, Wordle play, I think that it's brilliant because they bought a heck of a lot of traffic for probably a minimal price, and they completely are integrating it in because once they play the Heardle song of the day or whatever, then everyone will be able to listen to that song for free that day or whatever they do. I think it's some kind of integration that way, which is great.
Yep. It's
so
fantastic,
it's all
yeah.
about music discovery. So
Yep.
this is really, if you think that one of Spotify's core missions is music discovery for their users, this is core to their business model.
That's
and it
right.
brings them a lot of traffic, and they're able to monetize that traffic almost immediately.
Yep.
So
Yeah, well
it sounds
said.
pretty similar to what New York Times did with Wordle.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right, and you said it very well, which is for Spotify, this is a no-brainer. And by the way, the technology here for Heardle is not the play. The technology is easy. They could have easily duplicated and built this. So this acquisition was all about buying a brand and the press release, and the traffic, that it had already started to build up. So this is totally a quick, easy win for Spotify. We'll see if Heardle remains sort of a popular thing, and maybe they can keep it there, maybe they don't. But either way, it was a sort of no-lose situation I'm sure for them to acquire Heardle. And as far as their long-term prospects go, you can just watch them following the Netflix template here, right? I mean, you can see them. They've now divided out the business, putting someone in charge of original content. They have someone now in charge of licensed content. I would be shocked if at some point they did get into the original music business and start making acquisition in the live music space. Or,
don't you think they'll sign? Don't you think they'll sign artists?
Absolutely, yes. 100%. They're going to start signing artists. They're going to start putting in original music. They're going to get into the live music business. They are going to become a fully operational media company that does its own original content and monetizes that in multiple ways. You can just watch it happen. And so I think Spotify is definitely on the right track, and will be just fine. The only question with Spotify is, will they run out of time? It's literally, can they go fast enough, but not so fast that they run out of gas, but fast enough to get to critical mass. This was always the question with Amazon, right? I can remember back in 2006, 2007, 2008, when Amazon was running its, 8th or 9th year of being unprofitable, and Wall Street was losing its patience, basically saying, can Amazon, there were articles, tons of articles like, can Amazon ever be profitable? And Bezos and company would constantly say, be patient. We're purposely running, unprofitable right now because we're building. And now look at where they are, right? And it was just their ability to run the marathon as fast as they possibly could and outpace the others that gave them the critical mass to be able to do that. That's the only thing I think that's in Spotify's way right now of becoming the audio version of Netflix, which is, can they keep going at this pace?
I think they're fine with time, especially with what's happening with the downturn in the market.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah.
They bought. The downturn. The great thing about the downturn in the market for your Apples and your Amazons and your Spotifys, you just don't have the amount of competition. You've got less venture funding coming in. Yeah. You've got less people taking more. You don't have the amount of people taking risks anymore. They're waiting for things to clear out a little bit. That gives Spotify plenty of time and runway. They got plenty of cash. They can always do a secondary stock offering if they need to. I think that this model is going to work out fantastic for them. And I don't think it stops at just music. I think music is just their first foray. I think their first mission is to be the Netflix of music. But I think it's going to go beyond that into multimedia. I don't know.
You're probably right. Yeah. Gaming, they could get into gaming. They could get into a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah.
It's like first dominate where, they're pretty close to being the dominant player.
Yeah.
On the audio side. And then they're going to stretch out and kind of exactly what they're going to. Actually, I think they're following Amazon's model more than Netflix model, because Amazon was, they spent 3 years just selling books, and then they added DVDs, right? And they didn't. Now they've got everything. And that happened really quickly. So let Spotify dominate this audio area, and then when they've got that done, then they can start making bets in other areas.
Yeah, I still like the Netflix template here against original versus licensed content, but I hear what you're saying, that they're definitely going to get into other media, right? Whether that's streaming video or whether it's live. Live is the most obvious to me, right? That they could go out and buy what's the, it used to be Clear Channel, but it's not Clear Channel anymore, but it's the big live events company that does concerts and all that sort of thing.
You're talking about like in a Westwood One or something like that.
Yeah, that's right.
Buy radio stations because they have the deals done. because
Right.
they have the syndication deals already done. Yeah, that's a
right.
possibility. I mean, that's not too dissimilar than what SiriusXM has been doing as well.
Right.
So
That's right.
Absolutely. So we'll see. I got no worries about Spotify, and kudos to them for the deal. And the last thing I would say is you from a technology standpoint, Spotify could have duplicated this fairly easily in 2 seconds, but there's no we do not know if they could have duplicated any kind of success from Heardle. They had smart people doing the math and says, just makes more sense to buy them. Done.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. I mean,
We talk about that all the time with any content and media purchase, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, that event out there, Salesforce could have duplicated that, or that online property or whatever. But you know what? It's riskier for us to take 2 to 3 years to build that out.
Yeah, well,
than to just go buy.
That's a really important point, I think, because that's a great takeaway for the audience as well, which is, we often talk about how these, and some of the pushback you and I get when we talk about this with smaller businesses or even, micro businesses, right? Is, acquisition, that sounds like a big company thing. And it's not, for sure, but the analysis that you do is, what you have to take into account is not just how long it would take you to duplicate the thing, because it might not take you very long at all to duplicate the thing. A perfect example of this is when you and I talked about the acquisition of Intelligent Content, the event, right? Back in 2012, 2013, something like that?
2014, I think.
2014.
13, 14.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah. So we looked at that and said, sure, you could launch an event tomorrow that talks about governance and technology and content strategy and all those kinds of things and all of that. But the benefit to acquiring an organization that we did was built-in audience, already built-in, trust with that brand, already built-in, ability to understand where to go market that thing, and an existing audience that you're buying, right? So you're not buying the ability to duplicate the thing. You are, in fact, you have already the ability to do the thing. All you're buying is the sort of decoration around, the packaging more than anything else, and the audience that goes along with that packaging. And that makes the acquisition sort of a no-brainer. Then it just comes down to cost, like price. How are you pricing those audiences? So if you look at someone who's a blogger or, even a solopreneur, and you go, hey, would I want to acquire something? Don't think of it in terms of, gosh, how long would it take me on a weekend to duplicate that website or that community or that blog or whatever and start launching content. It probably wouldn't take you long at all. Think about the upside of acquiring the existing audience and the existing, brand and the trust that brand has. And it may not be, that it may not be that expensive. And it may save you, not only save you time to get, that trust and that audience, but it saves you, it gives you an immediate leg up because people see you as the source, right? It's like, Heardle had it. Heardle had the brand. They could have literally just bought it for the domain. You know what I mean? It's like, it can be an easy thing to do.
Well, you're taking choice out as well. I mean, if Spotify creates something new, Heardle is still there. They're competing against Heardle. When I used to go out, when I started selling ads, back in 2000 for print magazines, we had basically 5 or 6 competitive books. Well, there was a conversation when the market got really good in 01 before it really went down in 01, late 01 and 02. We're like, okay, well, if we're going in and we're competing against 5 to 6 different books, what if we take out the 5th and 6th competitor? Just take them out.
Yeah.
Just buy them and integrate it in.
Remove them from the marketplace.
But just remove them from the marketplace.
Yeah.
And we're already at an advantage. That alone is an advantage. Regardless of if you have any assets out of that at all, it's a bonus. All I'm doing is I'm going in now for a sales meeting, and I don't have to. They have to make a decision between 3 or 4 instead of 5 and 6. That's much better for me as a salesperson.
Sure.
So, anyways,
great point. Yeah, great point.
Yeah.
All right. Well, speaking of acquisitions and is it dead yet? Our next story is interesting because it keeps coming up. The headline here is Clubhouse isn't dead yet. And I added it's only mostly dead. And I totally want to make a video out of this. I went and looked at the Princess Bride scene of it's only mostly dead. Mm-hmm. There is a whole thing there that we could do if you did the subtitles the right way about, that Clubhouse, isn't dead yet. It's only mostly dead. And, does it still, to blathe? Anyway, I'll get off on a Princess Bride rant. Yeah, I love it.
It's funny. I think my initial MySpace login was to blave.
Was it really?
Yes.
Awesome. Oh my god.
I love
so
that
great. My first AOL chat. Remember AOL chat? Because AOL chat was sort of the chat you had back in the day for instant messaging. My AOL chat name was Dread Pirate RR.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
and we ended up getting together and doing this show.
Isn't that
crazy?
Amazing? Isn't that amazing?
Anyway,
all right.
Let's talk about how I'm right on Clubhouse.
Here we go. Yeah,
completely wrong.
Clubhouse isn't dead. This coming from The Information. And by the way, if you work for The Information, fix your shit. God, the login process for those who are subscribers that aren't subscribers, or did you get it's like it is. I'm a subscriber. And I'm struggling to log in because it doesn't recognize me, but I log in and then it still doesn't recognize me as a subscriber because some cookie I don't know what it is, but it's like these publishers are like, they're losing me because they're trying to, like, I guess, protect stuff so much. It's like, it's not, it's 2022, folks. Get it together. Anyway. Clubhouse isn't dead yet, says The Information. This article opens up by saying maybe the eulogies for Clubhouse were a bit premature. Sure, the social audio app star has dimmed since it became a Silicon Valley sensation during the first phase of the pandemic, when millions of people were stuck at home, bored out of their minds. By some estimates, usage of the app is down more than 70% from its peak in February 2021, and popular creators who once hosted live, interactive discussions on the platform are bailing on it. Even the luminaries from Andreessen Horowitz, the venture firm that backed Clubhouse and then flooded its chat rooms with its partners to expound on crypto and other topics, have become far less active personalities on the app. But, says the article, Clubhouse is still alive and kicking. It raised boatloads of cash, around $310 million, according to PitchBook, and more importantly, it doesn't seem to have blown the money on the kind of extravagant spending spree that landed so many other tech startups in hot water. Clubhouse has under 100 employees and at least so far has avoided the kind of deep layoffs that some companies have had to resort to recently. Like Peloton, and the article goes on, and I would read more to you, but I have to join now to read the whole story, and I've joined and I can't read the whole story, so I'm very frustrated about that. But in any event, the article does continue to talk about the idea that it's not quite dead yet, because it could last quite a while longer with the money that it has, the cash that it has. So it's got a long-ish runway to get successful. So you and I have debated this topic. I would love to get your perspective on Clubhouse. Funny enough, I'll just note this, and then I want to totally hear your take. Over the last 2 weeks, for whatever reason, I'm now getting notifications on Clubhouse again. Like, I'm getting so-and-so's live and talking about, crypto in the whatever room. And it's interesting. I don't know whether my settings got changed or whatever, but I'm starting to see more Clubhouse notifications trying to get me to come in. And of course I haven't, because it's ridiculously stupid.
Well, maybe it wasn't working because you were on AOL chat.
There it is.
On your phone or something like that.
There you go.
Maybe that's the problem. Look,
there you go.
I've been fighting with you for a long time that I thought Clubhouse was going to make it. And I never said that they were worth their $4.2 billion valuation, but I thought that there was something there. You talked about it being just a feature, and still we don't know where the truth is quite yet. But again, I would share again what I just talked about with Spotify. Patience matters. If you have focus and patience, you can do a lot of things with that. Spotify is going to be just fine. I think that if Clubhouse focuses on their core audience, So they had this big drop. So let's say the bubble burst and it goes down to something where they should have been. And we talked about the other app. What's the hot app right now? Be Real. That's catching on. They're kind of staying under the radar. They're not doing big promotions. They didn't get the big run up, and they're just growing a little bit every week. And now it's becoming fairly popular. Well, Clubhouse skipped most of that, and they just ballooned up in, whatever it was, a year ago, December 2020 or early 2021. It just went crazy and then dropped back down. Now we go to a point where we should have been in the first place, and now the work can get done. I know that there are some people that are doing very well on Clubhouse, and they have regular shows and they have regular audiences. And if Clubhouse can keep those people happy and they have a solution Twitter Spaces should have been all over this, but hasn't.
Right. Well, that's one of the rationale that this article uses is that, hey, Twitter Spaces hasn't taken off yet, so Clubhouse has, time. And my response to that is maybe there's a reason that Twitter Spaces hasn't taken off, because social audio isn't a thing. It's I don't see social audio sort of the classic, what Clubhouse wanted to be, because I've heard some smart people talk about social audio is really just radio, right? It's, the real aspect of social audio is just live podcasting. And that's just, it's ostensibly radio, where you have an audience and someone addressing that audience in some way in a show, not unlike this, if we were live, right? And that becomes sort of more what social audio becomes, instead of this sort of chat room that is audio. How much is really going on, in Discord communities with the audio, abilities, right? That's social audio capability in Discord. How much is really going on in Twitter Spaces? There's some interesting things, no doubt. There's some interesting things going on in Twitter Spaces that are real. It's a feature. It's a feature of a social media network. This audio is it will be a feature of Spotify. It will be a feature of Discord. It will be a feature of Twitter. It'll be a feature of Facebook in some ways. It'll be a feature of LinkedIn. It'll be a feature of just about any. But you have to have more than just that. So unless Clubhouse comes out with something more, I don't see how it survives past whatever its burn rate, whatever its monthly burn rate now is. $310 million sounds like a lot of money. It's not a lot of money. $310 million is not a lot of money with 100 employees and no revenue.
What if you just said it's not social audio, it's live radio that does have some Q&A time, which is basically the same thing, right? So I don't care if you call it social audio or whatever, but if they have, let's say one of the big issues the Clubhouse had from the beginning was not consistent shows, and you had a lot of talent that didn't know what they were doing, and these free-for-all commentaries, and nobody knew what was going on. And it's like that social audio doesn't make sense. But if you have regular programming, you have regular talent, you sign deals with people that want to do regular shows that are starting to build up an audience, you've built up a radio network.
Totally.
Somebody like a Spotify might want to buy.
Agree with that. So we can go back in the archives of this old marketing, and we can talk about when Clubhouse first launched, and I bitched and moaned about how the business model of Clubhouse from the very beginning should be exactly what you just said. It should have been exclusive. If you were a Clubhouse performer, you could build your audience there. You could build a show there. It should be, the whole thing of it should be red carpet, velvet ropes. You get in, you get subscribed, you get access to the coolest people who have the coolest shows, and that's where it was a thing to have a Clubhouse account, right? That would have been interesting. That would have been real. It would have been much smaller than it is now, and not $4 billion, but it would have been really interesting. And I think that arguably they could still do that. They could still try and build a Spotify for live performers, but it's about acquiring talent, and I don't see them doing that at all.
But the point is, you just made my point for me. there's still time to do the original model. They got caught. They got caught in the bubble. Well, it's okay. It's not over just because it went up to some crazy valuation and now you don't think it's worth that much. Nothing changed about the business model. They just don't figure out who they want to be.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but unfortunately, from experience,
I don't think you do. I don't think you're listening. I think you're hearing me. I don't think you're listening.
Oh dear. Oh my. What are you, my
Do you
mom?
hear the words that are coming out of my mouth?
I'm Chris. What's his name? Chris.
Chris. Chris. I wanted to say Chris Rock, but that's not right.
No, it's
Chris Tucker. Chris
Tucker. That was I love that movie. Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? Anyway, I think
it's fine.
I do hear
we can
you,
agree.
but-
We can agree to disagree. We will come back to this. Clubhouse is only mostly dead. We don't know the answer yet. There's no winner between the Robert and Joe argument at this point.
No, of course not. I will fully couch to that.
We will come back.
Yeah. We will definitely come back to this, and I'm sure, like everything, Apple buying Disney, this will go on for years, and you'll refuse to,
That's not over yet.
Basically, capitulate. Yeah, exactly.
I'm not giving up on that one.
We are now running on 7 or 8 years for that, thing.
Oh, but
there's a time for market capitulation, my friend, and you have reached it.
Well. I'm not even going to get into it.
Yeah.
Everyone listening to this knows that I was right.
Not everyone.
That it should have. That Apple had an opportunity. It didn't take it.
Yes.
And there were discussions on this. But I'm just going to leave it at that because
you should.
We need to move on.
You should just leave it at that.
The listeners know.
Remember, you're just here.
The listeners know.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, they, them, all of you out there, we are going to talk a little bit now about our rants and raves. It is a time of the show when Joe and I go off on a little bit of a rant, a little bit of a rave on something that makes us feel like we got an Emmy Award nomination or something that makes us feel like we're the cast of Yellowstone and snubbed out of the competition. I have a couple of raves. Do you want to go first or shall I go first?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to go first. I know okay. We didn't have time to cover it, but I am going to put in the show notes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And we talked about the Netflix possibility of opening its own theme park, which is not really a thing, but it was a couple articles that people were talking about. Morning Brew covered it. I just think it's interesting about the additional content experiences that come from having these great shows and brands, if you will. So that's something that our listeners can take a look at if you haven't already seen it. I do want to give Mr. Rose you some kudos. This just came across Twitter just as I'm talking about it because I wasn't listening to you. I was checking my feed. And apparently SEMrush, our friends at SEMrush, came out with the top 10 content marketing influencers and experts. And you, my friend, are number 2.
Oh, who am I behind?
Well, Ann Handley's number 1, but I'm saying I'm number 6. So I just want to be like you someday. You are my number 2.
I see.
So congratulations on making the list.
Who
Great list,
does
by the way.
number 2 work for? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of great people on this list that we know: Andy Crestadina, Ardith Albee, Neil Schaefer, Michael Brenner. But yeah, Ann Handley's number 1, you're number 2, and I'm number 6. I have no idea how they did this. I just saw the pretty infographic.
I'm sure the methodology is flawless.
You have a reddish or an orange flame, and I have a purple flame. Meaning I'm not as hot as you are, apparently.
So, okay.
We're going to leave that there. Congratulations to you, Mr.
I didn't
Rose.
even know this, so thank you for breaking that news to me. I had no idea.
The other thing I wanted to bring up was just I've been watching, of course, I talk about Scott Galloway all the time and what he's doing with his podcast network, and he created this whole thing called Prof G Media. It's just interesting as when we were seeing podcast networks grow up, 10 years ago, and you would have companies that would launch all these different podcasts, right? They would create a whole separate feed, and you had to subscribe. And it's interesting to see what Prof G is doing, where they are now having like every day is a different thing, and they're creating different brands for each one. So they've got like somebody reading No Mercy, No Malice, which is a whole separate podcast in the Prof G feed. You've got Prof G's regular podcast on Thursday. You've got Office Hours on Wednesday. They're now launching one on Mondays. It's called Capital Markets or something like that. But it's an interesting strategy, and I just wanted to talk about it a little bit as a possibility. Instead of saying, oh, I should launch a new podcast, maybe you launch a podcast within your own current feed. Instead of, like, if we were going to launch a new podcast, I don't know if we'd launch a new feed. We would launch something on Mondays, and we'd have a Monday show that was called something, and we'd have This Old Marketing that's on Friday. I don't know.
It's a great point. And we actually talked about this a few years ago when we started noticing that new shows, what they would do is they would put the first few episodes on the old feed as well as the new feed. Yeah. And then they would, slowly sort of say, hey, listen, go subscribe before they killed off the old feed. I think this is an even smarter idea, honestly, which is looking at your feed more as that's your network, right? That's you're building a network. So you put all the shows on one feed, and there's obviously probably a saturation point which you don't want to reach, but I think what they're doing is a really interesting experiment there, because putting in they had 2 shows a week on the Prof G thing, and then they're adding, like you said, they're adding a third and perhaps a fourth, which there's fresh content. You've got a built-in audience, and you can start to see which one starts to resonate, and you can, you can start to pull them and push them, and alter your programming. Right? It's like literally you have now what you've got is an audience with time, and you're just trying to figure out how to fill the time slots in the most optimal way. Yeah,
it's interesting to see, and you're seeing some of that, and you've seen some of this,
and it makes it easier for the consumer too.
It does, because I can look at my feed on Prof G, and I can say, oh, well, here I want to listen to the Thursday show, and I want to listen to the Capital Markets. I don't want Office Hours, whatever, and you could choose, which one you want. It's all in the same feed, and I don't have another feed cluttering it up. And you could also look at the same thing with a newsletter, an email newsletter, and you just have an issue that focuses on this instead of that, but it's the same newsletter. I don't know. It's just something to keep in mind. Anyways, you have some raves that you want to
I really like that. I want to put some more thought into that, because that's really interesting.
I've been thinking about it recently. I've been thinking about doing a different kind of a show for a podcast, but I don't want to do
for your Content Inc.
I don't want to launch the whole thing, so I just do a different episode on a different day. Why not?
We should have Elon Musk do a show on this network.
But Elon Musk loves us because he hasn't blocked us yet. So
that's right.
It doesn't have to follow us. He just has to not block us.
He doesn't follow me, that's for sure. All right. Yes, I do have 2 very quick raves here. The first is there's news this week around Netflix. In addition to them launching theme parks, they have chosen to partner with Microsoft on their ad-supported subscription plan. And there's a lot of publications that are like, what are you talking about? Microsoft, as opposed to a traditional ad tech platform or an advertising platform to partner with in terms of sales and, basically a complete a partnership to handle all of the ad sales and infrastructure for serving up ads on the network platform. And the reason I want to rave about this is because I've been watching as a quasi light investor sort of analyst in this space. I've been following Microsoft pretty closely for the last few years, and it's just remarkable what they're doing. The way that Satya Nadella is really navigating that company is just remarkable in terms of what they've been able to do. and the different businesses that they're now building, and very quietly, which is why I'm raving. So they're just doing what I always call the quiet work, which is just do the work. And they've built this entire thing. They've made tons of acquisitions, some of them newsworthy, some of them not, and they've built this incredible advertising platform: ad sales, search advertising, ad tech, ad serving, all for ad measurement, all for television, online, offline, and it's just an amazing infrastructure. So when I saw this, it was like, oh, finally, they've landed the big client. And what I want to link to additionally, I'll link to the obvious press release from Netflix saying that they've chosen Microsoft for their infrastructure, but also link to an older, back in May, it's a Digiday article where they talked about some of the moves that they've been making in terms of what they've been doing with all of their acquisitions, and how Microsoft has sort of structured all of their deals with regard to advertising and ad tech and becoming sort of a real power player in that marketplace. And this Netflix deal is just obviously the flagship kind of deal that they need to make this happen. So I just think it's a great example of a strategy, of a quiet strategy just paying off. So I really like it as a marketing and strategy guy. So I just wanted to mention it. The other thing that I'll rave about very, very quickly is this week, of course, the James Webb Telescope got out and started sending back pictures, and they're just, in a time in the world where we are so divided and so awful to each other, and the decisions from our governments that are coming down are just awful, and the news every day seems to be worse, and it just seems like an icky time to be human. This was just such a refreshing and wonderful reminder of our humanity and what we're capable of doing when we put our minds to it. And to see some of those pictures coming back, with the evolution of galaxies and and all of the things that we're starting to be able to see with this new telescope, quite honestly, they were kind of spiritual in how amazing these photographs are, and they just remind us about how petty and small our disagreements can be when the universe is so big and so overwhelmingly beautiful, and our ability to do amazing things as humans is only limited by our ability to work together. And it's just such a reminder of that. And so kudos to NASA, kudos to the content that's coming out, and I'm so excited by it and to be able to look at it. And we'll put a link to some of the NASA stuff in the show notes, but it's just amazing.
I couldn't believe the pictures. It's truly. You're right, and I love when everyone was sharing them, and there was no underlying political commentary.
Right.
It's just awe-inspiring.
Yeah,
and how we're so small, and we should take advantage of, focusing on how we can be a positive force instead of some of these little things that Elon Musk is focusing on. I'll just leave it right there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. What do you got coming up? What's going on this weekend?
Well, tomorrow I am delivering the final manuscript for Epic Content Marketing. Thanks to you as well, Mr. Rose. You are author of The Business Case for Content Marketing, one of the chapters. Right. So it's so happy to have you part of the book. Absolutely.
Fun
so
times.
Brian Piper and I put that thing to bed. We'll send it to McGraw-Hill tomorrow. I'm just doing one final review. You know how it is. We're getting all the images and everything. And I guess it's supposed to come out in January of 2023. So
okay.
We will see how that goes, but I'm looking forward to. It's beautiful weather here in Cleveland, Ohio, right now. So we're just trying to enjoy every minute we can outside. So how about you, sir? You're probably having similar beautiful weather.
No, we're having July. Yeah, we're having typical mid-July, August weather here in Southern California, which is hot and very, very dry. We could totally use some rain, but that's unlikely given the month and time of year that it is here. But yeah, but trying to get outside and busy with client work, which is a blessing right now, and working on some stuff. We're gonna do a little thing. We're doing a joint thing with our communities, right? You and Tilt and me and Experience Advisors. We're gonna give away a bunch of Tilt coin and a bunch of Idea coin.
Oh, we didn't even talk about that. You're right.
But for you basically give us a review and let us know about it, and then obviously let us know that you gave us a review, and we'll float you both some Tilt coin and some Idea coin, and the experienceadvisors.io is going well. We're on to class 3 now, so continuing to have some fun there. Our first live event is tomorrow with the community.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, so we're doing a little Zoom event on the future of brands, which is going to be fun. And your good buddy and co-author Brian Piper is going to be one of the little mini keynotes in that, so that'll be fun.
Excellent, that's awesome.
Yeah, so we all things are good in the summer here at Casa de Rose.
Yeah, I would just say if you are going to leave a review, we absolutely want to send you Tilt coin and Idea coin. Maybe the easiest thing, just go to thisoldmarketing.site and you can hit the contact form and send us, hey, I did the review, here's the link, whatever, and Robert and I will get right back to you and send you that coveted Tilt and Idea coin.
Yeah. It's a little crypto winter right now, but hopefully a little thing to just have some fun with for sure.
Hey, great time to figure out tokens. Seriously.
Yeah.
Perfect time right now.
Yeah.
Nobody's paying attention to it. This is what we want. So there you go.
Exactly right. All right. Well, that is it for this show. I want to throw a big thanks out to Idea contributors, Joe Bagonis, great story ideas, James Gardner, of course, Heath Dingwell, as always, giving us great story ideas via Twitter, and of course, Dennis Shao. Big shout out to Dennis. And thank you for those wonderful story ideas. Do hashtag us up on Twitter, won't you, with the story ideas that you have. We really want those Twitter ideas, and of course, reviews of the podcast. We could use a few more reviews if you're out there. Good reviews. Don't, if you're going to yell at us, don't yell at us in an email. Don't yell at us on a review. And also, in the meantime, if you want to go over to thisoldmarketing.site, you can get all the goodness of the podcast show notes, the links, dive into any of the other 331 episodes. Just get over there, thisoldmarketing.site. And until we see each other next week, just remember, it is your story to tell. Tell it well. See you next week on This Old Marketing.